Unmani and all the listeners. I'm Meinhard van der Reep from SAMSARABOOKS, and we are happy and proud to let you know that today or yesterday the new book of Unmani has come to life. And the title, the Dutch title is De Moed om tot leven te komen. So the English title was The Courage to Come Alive. And I think courage is a central point for Unmani. Courage to be alive, to come alive. The courage to be honest. The courage to love. The courage to be, only to be. We worked a long time with the book, and we are now bringing the Dutch translation, but also working on the English edition for other countries, and we hope it will be brought out in other countries too. But today the Dutch edition is available, and so we were happy to Unmani will speak with you, with us, about, I think, about the book or about the words in the book. And the evening is for you and for you, Unmani. So thank you and welcome.
Thank you, Meinhard. Yeah, I'm also really happy that the book has finally come out, because it's been a long journey with this book.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, I think I started writing this book, I guess, around 8 years ago. It could even be more. And many things came in between before it was actually finished, including meeting the love of my life, getting married, having a child, and then my husband having a sudden heart attack and dying. So all of that came in the way of actually finishing, or not in the way, but it meant that it didn't really get finished until now. Yeah. So, well, welcome everybody who's joined us tonight. I'd like to just start by just taking a few moments to close our eyes and just feeling whatever is here for you. Knowing that everything is welcome, just the way it is. Noticing what is here physically, emotionally, and mentally. Noticing the breath, just the way it is. Nothing needs to be any different. Just acknowledging the peace in this experience of us sitting here peacefully together, but also knowing that this peaceful experience is bound to pass, it's bound to change. But of course, we enjoy it while it's here. There is the peace that is beyond all experience. The awareness of every experience, the awareness of what is here right now. And this awareness doesn't require any effort, any doing. It is always here. It is always your true nature. Life itself, peace itself, love itself. And this awareness of it all, this that you are, doesn't need any courage to come alive. It doesn't need anything. It is already living itself just the way this experience is. And yet, the paradox is that this human experience is here. So again, bringing the attention to the human experience, this body. Is there any tension? Is there any agitation? Is there any discomfort? Is there any contraction or expansion or joy, peace, whatever is here, just noticing it. And noticing if thought has something to say, commentary. It's all included, it's all welcome. So when you're ready, you can open your eyes. So I feel like the real message here, or the essence of what I've written about in the book, the courage to come alive, is about living the paradox of knowing your true nature as that awareness, that life itself, and the human experience of living it in this body with all the human ups and downs, the dramas, the problems, the life challenges, the joys and the pain. And the reason why I use the word courage is because it does seem to take courage to really risk being fully human, to not hide in a belief, in a dream, in holding on to some particular concept or experience. It takes courage to really feel the whole spectrum of what it is to be alive as this human. It takes courage to really let life in, to let life touch you, to let life break you open at times. But this courage is not about being tough or always being strong. In fact, it's the courage to be vulnerable, the courage to show yourself as you are, the courage to meet yourself as you are. And of course, in each moment, you meet yourself completely uniquely and differently. It's the courage to stand on your own 2 feet, in your own knowing, your own sense of authority to know, and risk everyone else being against you. You risk being rejected, hurt. You risk losing everything that you thought you had or knew, everyone, for the sake of what is true for you, but not according to a thought. It's not about holding on to an attitude. It's not even about trying to be courageous. Because when you try to be courageous, of course you make yourself wrong when you're not courageous. And of course we don't always feel courageous. But it's the courage to admit that, even to hold yourself in not being courageous. Even that seems to also take courage. And sometimes it's about acting courageously, doing something that requires you to step out of a comfort zone, out of a safety net, standing alone. But mostly it's in the subtle things. It's not necessarily big, dramatic, courageous acts. It's in literally meeting yourself in your aloneness. Meeting the fact that you know that you don't know. That you don't know how to live. You don't know how to be, who to be. It takes courage to live without knowing how to live. You put one foot in front of the other and you never know whether there's going to be ground underneath your foot. Then it just takes courage to get up in the morning. And of course, what seems easy for one person takes a lot of courage for somebody else. Because we all have our own background, our own upbringing, our own traumas and tragedies. And often it takes courage just to face the feelings that you feel. To face just living, just being someone in this world, in this strange world where nobody really knows what the hell is going on. And it seems that there is a process of coming more and more alive as this human. It seems as if first we recognize our true nature that is beyond this human experience. It's that knowing of it. But then this is not an escape. This is not a hiding place. If you're willing to keep stepping out of beliefs and concepts and keep losing what you thought you had on you, then there's more and more of a kind of a defrosting that seems to happen, where this human has less ground to stand on, and yet there's more freedom in that. See more and more that nothing matters, nothing means anything about who you are. And this brings more and more lived freedom. You see that every interaction with anybody, any life circumstance is always an opportunity to meet yourself like this or like that. Seeing every aspect of life as this opportunity to courageously come alive in this. Acknowledging the fear in your belly, acknowledging the agitation, the nervousness, acknowledging the thoughts that arise. Knowing all the time that this is not you, you're not limited to this. And yet, this is what's here. So there's no denying or moving away, no pushing away of anything. This is wholeness, living with the wholeness of who you are in this experience of being alive. Well, I always do best when people ask questions or want to have a dialogue with me. That's how I love to work with people. So if you would like to have a dialogue or ask a question, please do so. I think you can raise your hand or maybe even type a question in the chat and I'm happy to respond.
Or people could just unmute their microphone and just ask the question, because it's a small group, that's fine.
Mo.
Hi.
Hi, Mo. Nice to see you.
Yeah, you too. I have this thing now. I'm living in the south of Europe, and my husband, he has grandchildren, and one of them in Holland, he has his birthday and he has his first communion from the church. And my husband doesn't want to go there, and me neither. Because I don't like to go to Holland, and now with that COVID thing, we have to do tests before and maybe in quarantine. So I'm happy that we can use that as a kind of excuse. But what is more, it takes so much courage, and it's so scary to feel that I don't want to go and to risk that they will disapprove of it, and that they will see that I'm just egotistic, that I only want to do what I like. Yeah. So usually I go and visit them, and I'm nice and pleasing and Yeah. So yeah, and it's not that I don't know what I should do, because I know what I really want. But to go that direction of more and more really following what feels good for me, with all the risk of losing people.
Yeah,
I mean, scary alone. Yeah, scary. Yeah.
Of course, it's not an attitude of only doing what feels good for you according to your mind, because then it does feel, let's say, you could say selfish or egotistical. I'm not saying that that's what you're doing, but just to be clear that that's, this could be taken on as a mental concept. Like, I'm just going to do what feels good for me. But actually to be sensitive to the whole picture, of course, yeah, acknowledging how you feel, and you might also be touched by them or the whole situation, and then with the sensitivity to the whole thing, then you feel what resonates in you, and yeah, to let in the whole picture, not just your personal experience,
Mm-hmm.
First of all, it takes courage to let that in, that it's not just about you not being the good girl, pleasing them, and they may reject you, but it's also about maybe feeling the heartbreak of not being able to go, or not be, or the whole picture, or them, their side, so that you're not just kind of doing it all for yourself. You see what I mean?
Yes.
Because often we're just taking it as how can I get away with this, in a way, and it's also how can I get away with not even feeling it. And you might feel your own risk that they might not like you anymore or whatever. But to feel the whole picture, this already takes a lot of courage to feel what they might feel, or to let in the whole thing.
Then it becomes too complicated again.
Well, I mean, I don't mean to complicate it, but it's and then you do what feels right for you. But then it's a bigger risk then, because you feel the whole thing, and then you still have to do what you want to do, or you need to do what resonates for you.
Yeah, what I get now is, I thought it's only or this position or that, or I go or I don't. But now when I take in the whole picture, it's more nuanced, and then it's not only I go or I don't go, but also if I don't go, how I tell them, what I find as an alternative, how I can make it right, not really make it right, but keep a connection.
Yes, keep a connection, and it may not be right. It may not be a happy ending, and to be willing to feel that too. They may hate you, they may reject you, they may never want to see you again. Who knows? But it doesn't have to be made right. There's also the courage to feel the discomfort of it not being right. Of course, you would do your best, okay, or whatever, but that is a risk that things may not go right.
Yeah, that is feels a big risk. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Then that little child that wants to be liked and comes up.
Yes, and also what it means if I don't go, and what they think that it means if I don't go, and what I think that it means, all those.
Yeah, and maybe
things.
It's not complicated. Maybe it's simple in that it's just about feeling the heartbreak of the whole situation. That it's not going to go right.
Yeah,
you're not going to manage to please everybody. You never can. You're always going to fail at that.
Okay, yeah, that's easier. Then I go out of my mind thinking all the things that I feel, and I still don't know, but I feel. Yeah. And then I don't have to, and then it's not that I have to take the decision, but I will follow what will happen, more or less like that. Yeah, that's also scary, of course, but.
And then you feel the fear as well, and that's part of it.
Yeah.
And then
risk it all.
The courage to even share that you're afraid. Share, Of course, you don't have to share everything with them, but you could.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Peter.
Unmani,
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just said that life doesn't need courage.
Life, yeah, your true nature doesn't need courage, yeah.
No.
It is courage.
Hey, so life doesn't need courage. Maybe it's a question of words, because courage, the word courage, I think lots of people will make the word personal.
Mm.
They have to stand for something.
Yeah.
So maybe the title is not correct. That's possible.
Look, you know, every word is wrong. We have to start with that premise. And I think that's even how that's one of the first chapters in the book, about words and how, you know, every word can be misunderstood or made into something personal. And courage is like that. And of course, it is personal and it's impersonal. You can also use the word courage for your true nature, for life. Mm. Life is courage. So then you don't need to try to be courageous. It's actually about seeing all the effort, all the trying, all the concepts and beliefs, and as they are seen to not be the truth, then there is just courage.
Yeah, but life for me, life is impersonal. It's not personal. And courage sounds for me personal.
But life isn't just impersonal, it's also personal, right?
It's part of it.
You live as this person, and you have your relationships and your work and this and that. Of course it's personal. Mm. And of course it's the impersonal living as the personal. And so that's the paradox. That's the living paradox of waking up to your true nature. Because it's not just that you wake up to your true nature as the impersonal and then you live as this impersonal. No. Because you also have your personal life. And in your personal life, it's a question of, you know, how does this impersonal nature that you are live as this human? And it seems, in a way, I could say that courage is like a bridge in between the personal and the impersonal and the personal. Mm.
Yeah. For me, the word courage brings up the thought like there is a path from here to there.
And
but that's not what you mean.
Well, there is a path and there isn't. You see, that's again the paradox. Mm-hmm. It's not one or the other. There is no path because there's only this, right? There's nothing more, nothing less. And it seems that there's a path, or let's say an evolution of recognizing that and living that more and more in your life, or more and more seeing through your beliefs that seem to keep you separate in your lived experience.
Mm. But why should I give it the word courage?
Then don't. Throw out that word if you don't like it. You know, I'm not going to defend that word.
No,
you know, it works for me. It works for me, and you know, I read my book, Meinhard. You know, it's
I read it.
It's all about courage. You know?
I read it a few times. But yeah, I think it's a question of word. But for me, I like the word surrender. Comes closer to life.
But you know, that word, people misunderstand that word too, as if, you know, you could try to surrender, and then people try to do the surrender. That also can be totally misunderstood. well.
Yeah.
You know, every word.
So
I like courage. I like courage because there's something fiery and alive and kind of juicy about it.
You like passion.
Well, who doesn't? I mean,
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I notice it in a way in your personal experience. There are many moments where it seems as if there's a choice. You could say from the impersonal that there's never a choice, but in the personal, it seems that there are these many kind of moments of opening or like windows open up where you have the courage to jump, or you could stay small and stay in your belief. Yeah. I'll give you an example of what I've been personally feeling lately. That I noticed that since my husband died, I started to go in a little bit of a kind of survival mechanism, just me and my son, and after a while it became a certain comfort zone, and I noticed that there's energy moving to be a bit adventurous, and we have summer holidays coming up soon. I want to go on a little holiday, just me and my son, and I noticed fear comes. I haven't done something adventurous just by myself or just me and myself, well, since before my husband died. And there's some fear. But I noticed that the energy is coming, it's moving, it's going to happen. It is going to happen, but there's fear. And it feels like that's the moment of courage, to feel the fear, you know, and fully acknowledging and feeling that there's that fear there. And I'm about to jump into it. You know, I'm gonna take the fear by the hand and just dive.
Yeah, but when you say to jump in it, then I think, who the hell is jumping in it?
This Unmani person, you know, because I am life itself, and I'm watching the play of energy, but part of the play of energy is this woman.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I already noticed that just sharing what I just shared, in a way, that was a moment of courage for me also, and something that has lightened up for me. I think after this, I'm just going to book our little holiday.
Yeah. No, it's okay. But I think you are already busy with another book, of course.
Yes. About grief.
About grief.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, well, that's another whole process. Who knows how long that will take me, but
Yeah. In a personal way, grief can take a very long time. But if grief, when grief is seen, is it still strong or still making a big sense?
Big what, sorry?
Is it still important if it's seen?
If your true nature is seen?
Yeah.
Yeah, look, I see that actually this recognizing your true nature gives you absolute freedom to feel whatever is here. And this human goes, you know, it's very natural to grieve when your husband is died. And you know, you can kind of one could potentially kind of non-dual yourself out of grief. By you know, just saying, well, you know, it's just this personal stuff, and that could even maybe help to not feel for a while.
No,
it does. It feels like it's a natural. There's waves of grief that come, and it's not a problem. I think the recognizing my true nature makes it not a problem.
No.
I think it perhaps, I don't know, but without recognizing my true nature, I might try to fix myself or change, or I might get worried about myself or feel like I would never come out of this, or I might feed the drama of it. Whereas in my experience with grief, it's not been about adding any drama. It's just been following the waves of whatever is here. And there's been no choice about it. There's been moments of absolute hell, and then moments of much more lightness or numbness, all the phases of grief that people go through, and that it's just been no problem.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Peter, you wanted to?
Yes, hi, Unmani. Yes, it was only this afternoon that it struck me when I compared the title of one of your first books with this one, because the one is Die to Love, and now the courage to become alive. And well, it looked like a full circle. And in the meantime, it's all about the never changing the same, yet appearing into different flip sides.
Yeah, well, and my first book was I Am Life Itself.
Oh,
so
okay.
It's like life, death, life, and then the next one's about death. Yeah, I mean, it's true that life and death, they're two sides of the same coin. Your true nature is death. Death pretending to be alive as this human.
Yeah, earlier on I was, because there are more book titles which refer to death or the dying process of the personal. And I was always more fascinated by that than to become alive, as if becoming alive is more scary than dying.
It seems as if we need to die, not physically. I'm talking about dying to who we thought we were, in order to come alive more. And it is a full circle also on the path or pathless path, where we seem to mostly start off really taking this personal story very seriously, and then it seems that we have to lose or let go of that or die to that, and then it's a kind of coming full circle back to the personal, and coming alive in this personal experience. But something has changed completely, because you're no longer taking this personal to be who you really are. So then you now have the freedom to kind of come back into the personal experience as, in a way, it's funny to say, but as like the living dead, in a sense, like that your death, you've recognized that never dies, but that is always death. And yet here you are in the human form, living as this person. And just the very fact that you know your true nature, this brings so much more freedom in your human experience. Because there's nothing left to lose anymore.
Yeah, and yeah, that's wonderful, and it really touches me. And I see there's a shift, so it seems, in me being directional towards what I used to call enlightenment. But the truth of my experience is when I'm in contact with people, that especially when there's a really meeting, there's nothing else than I want, but that to totally go into that and totally experience that, as if there could never be any more aliveness in the experience than that. And then all the concepts about enlightenment and dying or living is vanishing in the totality of the experience, where I don't know.
In other words, you die to the experience.
Oh, is
And
that?
that's what intimacy is, really. Intimacy with someone else, or intimacy with any experience.
Yeah.
Like there's not a me experiencing. It's just the experience.
Well, this is so strange the way you give it back to me, because I would never come up to these words myself, but it's true. And it's been a long time that I, for the first time, had such an experience, as if I was exploding in oneness with what I saw around me, as if paradise was opening up in that moment. I was completely blown away by it. That such a thing would have.
And the same experience could cause also terror,
Okay.
and running a mile from there, you know.
Yeah. So it doesn't have to be always that nice or preferable.
No, it depends on the individual, really, how, you know, what the mind does with it. The mind can come in and say, this is blissful, this is beautiful, I love this, I want this. Or the mind can come, you know, they can also be this push-pull. This is everything I've ever longed for. You know, I just want to melt in this. And this is a bit too much melting.
How do we ever overcome the interference of the mind with this? He's spoiling the whole thing.
You don't have to take the mind so seriously. You know?
Yes, but there's no one there.
I mean, that's the thing with the whole personal play.
Yeah.
You know, that none of it is serious.
Mm.
You know, even something serious like, you know, like grief, for example, is in my own experience, that even that, okay, it seems very serious and tragic, but at the same time, it's not serious. So every thought is just a thought, you know, doing its job, trying to help, but it's not serious. It doesn't mean anything. So continually seeing that it doesn't mean anything about who I am, then thoughts are welcome and they never disturb anything.
Yeah. Yes, and if I...
So then, sorry, just to finish one more thing. Then in the experience of, let's say, melting or merging, the intimacy, then even if thoughts come up saying, oh, this is too much, it's scary, you don't take that thought seriously. You know, you might feel fear, but you feel that and you don't necessarily move with what the thinking says, because you know that it's not in charge. It's not the one that knows it all.
Yes, but the experience can be so overwhelming, so there's no observation of, well, I shouldn't take this too serious, because I find the space to be aware of that.
Yeah, so then you're left with your physical experience.
Sure.
Yeah, and that's all that there is in that moment. So you can't do anything else.
Yeah, sure.
But that's where, before we were talking about whether there is a path or not, and it seems that there is a path, in a sense, in taking your thoughts less and less seriously.
Yeah.
You know, that seems to be something that, in a way, grows.
Yeah, let's hope that that will be the case, because if it were for me, I would be very much in trouble, I guess.
But Peter, I've known you for quite a while, and I can already see that, you don't take many of your thoughts so seriously.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. It's and I would say it's an endless path.
Yeah.
You know, because thoughts always can be sneaky and come up with some new way of, causing some issue. So then you see through it again.
Yeah, that's very relaxing that you say that it's an ever ongoing thing which hasn't been completed before this heart stops beating. Yeah. Okay, that was very helpful. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Seems to also take courage to raise your hand and ask a question. Or to feel what is here in the silence.
Unmani.
Yeah.
The silence is wonderful. But also, as a publisher, I sometimes think why you or other people who are talking about aspects of non-duality still have the urge to speak or to write. Can you tell me something about that?
That's a good question. Yeah, I sometimes wonder that myself. But and sometimes I don't have the urge to speak or write. But I mean, for me, when I first started speaking this message, it felt like this is what I was born to do. Like this, there's nothing else that I need to be doing. And it still feels like that, even though the expression has changed a lot since I first started. But it feels like this is the most nourishing thing that I can do for myself. Because when I speak this, it's my experience when I'm speaking this is that that I'm actually participating. I'm hearing this. Oh, sorry, my son is just woken up. Yes, guys. Okay, just go back to bed. Yeah, it's all right. Leave it.
Sorry, I muted you to give you some privacy. Sorry. You can turn it on again yourself.
Thank you. I can't remember what I was talking about.
Writing.
Speaking, yeah. The feeling is that I'm being nourished by this in the same way as anyone listening might be nourished by it, because I'm also listening.
Listening to what?
To this message, this expression, and it's nourishing for this human to, it's like if you go to a satsang, you kind of go and you feel nice. So hearing this message is like listening to some beautiful music. It touches the heart. It's you can have an experience of expansion and relaxation. Well, that's what happens for me when I'm speaking it. So it's very nourishing. And I'm not thinking what I'm saying or anything. It's coming out of nothing. And so I'm often surprised at what comes out. And sometimes it can be like, that's a good insight. Wonder where that came from. So again, that's insightful for me, and that's nourishing. And I'm absolutely committed to the truth, to living the truth, and it seems that in the role of the speaker or the writer, or the one at the front of the room, I'm constantly, in a way, being held accountable to that commitment to the truth, that love of the truth.
Mm.
You know, with questions like this, you know, now, then as you asked me this, I check in, you know, okay, this is interesting one. Okay, that's for myself, you know. Then I get an opportunity to explore that in myself.
Yeah.
You know, and the same with writing. I mean, I use writing as a way of exploring myself. I'm never writing or speaking for somebody else. I'm always doing it for myself.
It's a way of exploring.
Endlessly exploring, endlessly awakening. I've had, beautiful insights through, you know, speaking this and writing this.
Mm.
You know, like my other book, Die to Love, was basically an exploration about love for myself. You know, I wrote it after a long time ago, many years ago, when and I was heartbroken, and I was like, what's the point of love? Okay, let's write. And it started like that. You know, it went off on a whole other journey. And the same with the courage to come alive. It's how is life really lived? How being this person? You know, I've spent so many years trying to go beyond this person to you know, the absolute and the impersonal. But actually, it seems that for me and for, I think, everybody really, but I can only really speak for myself, that my challenge is to be in this body, to live this as this person, to not escape it.
No.
And so the courage to come alive is my own exploration of living this recognition in the human experience.
Yeah, it's the experience and the recognition at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the paradox of both.
Yeah, that's the paradox of writing and telling and talking.
Yeah, you don't do it for anybody else, because as soon as you start to think that you're writing it for somebody, it gets a bit messy.
Yeah.
Then you've got to imagine that kind of person, and which kind of person are they, and what. Yeah.
We are bringing a magazine called Inzicht. Sometimes you make some words for it, and we are doing that already for 20 years, and we just moved to another business surrounding, and I read the first copies of 22 years ago, and I was thinking 22 years ago when we started, the same words, nearly the same words are used. And so what we are doing already all the years, the same words, more or less the same authors. And that the words are still going on and on and on. So the message is repeated so many times, not only in 20 years, but maybe for 1,000 years.
And you know, it's amazing to me that people can hear it again and again and still not hear it.
Yeah, I think so.
Until they do, and when they do, then it becomes like, as I said, like listening to some beautiful music. If it resonates, you know, it just resonates.
Yeah.
Sounds like you're questioning yourself, why you're publishing the same words for 22 years.
Yes, correctly. Yeah. Yeah, that's sometimes that thought is coming up. But then...
And it's also not the same. You know, it's the same only when you filter it from the mind. You know,
Yeah, that's...
the mind can say, yeah, I've heard it all before. I know all these words. Yeah, I've heard them for 22 years or longer.
Yeah.
And that's never the same, really, because it's always pointing. The words are doing their best. They always fail, though, because actually what the words are pointing to can't be put into words. So all the people who have been writing for 22 years and for thousands of years have all been attempting to say the unsayable. And it's that's also what I'm doing. You know, as long as you're trying to get the words right, to say it right, then it's always filtered through the mind. But actually, when the mind kind of steps to the side, then there's, you know, it's like life loves to express itself.
Yeah.
Life loves to sing its own song. And it has so many different flavors that it sings.
Yeah. Yeah, mostly you know yourself if your thoughts or your expressions are constructed or come from life itself. But when I say from life itself, I don't know what I'm talking about.
And that's the whole point. I don't know what I'm talking about most of the time. And yet it's, you know, it just is coming. And I don't know what I'm talking about. And on the other hand, I absolutely know what I'm talking about. You know, it's this paradox again. Somehow it feels absolutely right. And I can't really say I understand it.
But why you are so attracted to that? Or the same question for me, of course.
Yeah, you don't. Why? Maybe we don't have to understand why. Maybe it's okay for it to just be as it is.
There's no escape.
Yeah. Seems that some people that, you know, are totally attracted to this and come again and again and only want this message. And for me, I've devoted my whole life to this message. And for others, it's just blah, blah, you know. They hear it and go, well, what is this nonsense? You know?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. You're also welcome to type something in the chat if you don't feel like actually having a live dialogue. And also, it doesn't have to be a question. It can also just be kind of a comment, or perhaps how you see courage. What is courage for you? Chris.
Yes, Unmani. I thank you very much. I don't know so very much about courage, and I'm not a native speaker in English, and I think that the English word courage is not exactly the same as moed in Dutch. But in Dutch we also have the word lef and brani, and they are expressing some different flavors of courage. And what I see, what you said about life is expressing itself, its own dance, its own music, its own flavor. Is that also the courage of life itself?
Yeah, I mean, life, you know, when we are...
The fire of life expressing itself?
Yes, yes, you could say that courage is the fire of life. That's another word for life, yeah. And of course, we usually are taking our thoughts seriously to really mean that this is me, and then we limit ourselves and we stay small somehow. But if we can see that our thoughts are not serious or not meaningful, then life can be lived more fully, or let's say more courageously.
And more creative.
Also, yeah, then life just, yeah, it creates itself, right? That's also, you know, what happens with these speaking in this way, or writing, or painting, or music, or whatever, or just everything. Interacting with somebody becomes a creative dance.
But that courage of life, that fire of life, has this also something to do about the ego?
What do you mean?
Or is the ego simply using it?
The ego is part of life. You know, it's an aspect of life. This me thought arises in life. Yeah, but even that it doesn't mean that there's really a separate entity of the ego or me. It's an expression. And it's like about the courage to keep seeing that this is just the me thought. This is not really who I am. Mm-hmm. And that seems to take courage each time. Mm-hmm. Because when you believe yourself to be this limited me, it's also it feels very safe. It's very familiar. And it seems to take courage to step out of these kinds of beliefs.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Unmani?
Yeah, Jacqueline.
Hi, Unmani. Hi. I recently re-listened to an old interview of Patrick Kikken with you, and you were talking about this Dutch woman in India who said to you, "Come to me only when you're ready to die."
German woman, yeah.
German woman. What did I? Yeah.
Dutch.
Oh yeah, German. I meant German.
Uh-huh. Yes.
I thought when I heard it again, and I've read it, had read it before, of course, but wow, that's a courage I probably I don't have. Is that the same? Is it the same courage to be alive and to be to die? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Because you can only really come alive when you're willing to die.
Yeah, I were afraid of that already.
Yeah, and you know, in a way, it seems as if there's a choice. It seems in that moment when she asked me that, as if I had a choice. But in another way, I didn't have any choice. And it's like this, what I was saying before about this, the fear of going on a little adventure by myself now. It's the same. I mean, obviously, it's small scale compared to that, the terror that I felt in that moment when she asked me. But you know, you can feel the fear, the terror, and at the same time know that this is the way you're going. You have to. There's no other option. I mean, to go to hide and turn around and go the other way would be like suicide. You know, it would just be there's no option. You know, so you feel the fear, and you go. You know, that's what courage is, to feel the fear and step anyway. And that seems to be also death. You know, that there's a death in stepping through the fear.
And is that death? Does that anything? No. Does that anything have to do with the ego, the death of the ego, or?
Yes, that's what you could call it, the death of the ego. Yeah, because it's not taking your thought, me, so seriously in that moment, because the thought wants to run in the opposite direction to protect itself, to survive, right? And that's also the fear that you know that this is the end, and you go anyway. This is, you know, the death of the ego. Yeah, I don't usually use the word ego so much. I'm not so, because I find that word, it's just a word, and all words have their purpose, but it sounds like a kind of entity when I hear it. I like to use the word thought. Of course, that also can be misunderstood and misused, but somehow it's more simple. It's just this: the thought arises then.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And to Meinhard, you said that you wonder that there are so many people who can read it again and again, and yet still, don't get the message. What did you say? Still don't hear.
Something like that, yeah.
Is there any connection with the being ready to die, or and hear it, be able to hear it?
Yes, it seems as if that is the case. But then, you know, if I say that, it can also be taken on by the mind, like, oh, I'm not ready to die, so obviously I can't hear it yet. Yeah. Or I am ready to die, but I still can't hear it. You know, the mind can twist everything, so, and turn it into some kind of prescription.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
It is often the case that people are so desperate. Maybe you don't necessarily call it a readiness to die, but a feeling of exhaustion with all the effort of being someone or trying to fix yourself endlessly. And that exhaustion, you know, it gets more and more to the point often where you're just sick of it. And you know that any temporary experience is just going to pass. You know, it's not. You might feel, you might have a moment of peace, but it's unreliable and it's going to pass. So it's exhausting trying to maintain these kinds of things. So that exhaustion or feeling of hopelessness is often the case, because when you still have hope that there's something you could do to get this feeds this searching and waiting and trying and all of that. So the death is a loss of hope, you know, a disillusionment with the whole thing. For many people, it's a turning away from the spiritual path, even saying, oh, this is a whole lot of nonsense. What am I wasting my whole life for? And then even realizing that even that they can't turn away from, because if it's a real deep longing, you can't turn away from it. You know? So it's a following that longing, no matter where it takes you, and a willingness to follow it, even if it kills you. Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So the next title of your book will be The Courage to Die.
I better not use that word again, Reinhardt. You might not want to publish it.
No. Oh, I remember a few moments that I had the feeling that dying would not be a problem. And it's nice that you know that when that feeling overcomes you, that there is stillness. That was the experience.
Yeah.
So the personal life.
As a relief.
Yeah, more or less relief. It was quiet. There's one small story. Sometimes I walk in the mountains, and a few years I did make a mistake. I jumped on ice, so I thought that goes quicker, and I tumbled down for 100 or 200 meters, and I was rolling and rolling and rolling, and I saw rocks coming closer and closer and closer. So I felt so that's the end. But there was no fear. It was only looking, seeing, and complete quietness. So it was nice. In the end, it was nice. But after that, I was shaking for hours on the same time. But there was also that moment of relief, of complete being aware, and not afraid, no courage. No courage at all. Life brought me to death, but it was still.
Yeah. Yeah, and this same stillness is always here.
Yeah.
Of course, we have experiences like that where it's really like in your face, you know, really obvious, strong experience. But in fact, you could say that in that moment, all the usual daily troubles or complications were gone. So then it was clear.
Yeah.
This.
But mostly there are thoughts.
Yeah, and we can have compassion for our thoughts, you know, that they're trying to be more peaceful, or trying to be free, or trying to wake up to our true nature, or trying to just survive in the world. They're just trying this and that. But they're just thoughts, and they're always going to fail. They're useful tools for being in the world. I wonder if we just about come to the end of our time.
Yeah, I think we have.
Yeah, I just want to say, just do my little promotional bit, because I have, I'm doing my first live open meeting in Amsterdam on the 3rd of July. And it'll be limited to, I think, 10 people, I think it'll be. Yeah, in my new house, my new home here in Amsterdam in Holland. So, yeah, you can book for that on my website. And also my first live intensive retreat in August. Well, not first, I've done many, but first since this whole silly corona nonsense. So that retreat will be all very socially distanced and safe and all of that. But you can read more about that on my website. Yeah. It's really nice that because I'm living now in Holland, yeah, all these things are happening in Holland now for me, whereas I'm normally moving all over the place. So my first, my third book coming out first in Dutch, yeah, and now it's open meeting and retreat. So yeah, go on my website and have a look. It'd be lovely to meet you live soon. I'm really looking forward to it.